Alright, so we're checking out your code here for assignment 13, and as soon as I go ahead and try to start debugging the program, we come up with a whole bunch of errors. So let's kind of take a look at the first one. Alright, which is right here. It looks like apparently it's not recognizing the word if. Usually when you have a whole bunch of errors like this, it's probably something to do with the way your code is organized. Generally, curly braces and things like that will do this kind of thing. So it looks like towards the end here, we don't really have a lot of proper organization of our code and all those little curly braces. I mean, kind of, but really just not quite there, not where it needs to be, okay? So let's kind of go through this and just double check all these little curly braces, alright? So we've got, basically anytime we see an open curly brace indented, we should be looking for the end of that curly brace. One way to kind of easily keep track of what's going on with the curly braces is to count them and say for each open curly brace that we have, add a number, and each time you see one that closes it, subtract a number. You should definitely be checking for curly braces that end methods or classes, alright? So basically this opening curly brace right here is signifying basically that your game is starting. So we should not ever see another curly brace in this very first position here until the absolute end of our game, okay? So if we see any there's probably some problems. This one is going to be the next one we're going to be looking for. This is our class here where we kind of declare all of our variables and everything like that. So, this is all looking pretty nice, That's fine. And then we've got our public game 1, okay? And so we've got an opening curly brace there, and it closes off right there, so that looks fine. Alright? Okay, next we're going on to initialize. Alright, so each one of these methods basically, initialize, draw, update, they should all start right here in this kind of third curly brace position, if you will, alright? So they should all be starting and ending right there in that position. So, alright, we've got initialize started, closing curly brace right here, and it's ended. Alright, nice and organized. So we've started a new one, load content. And here's another curly brace that's opening for a 4 here, and then also closing, so that's all fine. Another instance of an open curly brace and a closed curly brace, right? And here's a closing curly brace in that third position, signifying that this is the end of load content, right? And we'll start unload content and end it right below. And now we're going to start update. Okay, we've opened up another curly brace to begin our switch, okay? And we've opened up another one right here on this line for an if statement, and we have also closed it, okay? So we're back to looking for our switch end. And there's the end of the switch. And the end of update, okay? Everything looks fine there. Alright, starting draw, opening up a switch. I'm going to go through these a little faster now. We're opening up an if statement right there. Okay, so kind of a red flag right here. I mean, we've got some weird indentation. We don't want that. We want to keep everything really super organized, right? So we've got that if statement. If bool high scores run, and this is within our case, right? So we always start our case by saying case, whatever number, and then we end our case by saying break, right? So we have this if statement inside of our case. It's not going after break, right? It's only for this case, case 99. So it's opened up, and you might notice that it is not closed before the end of this statement. Alright, it's not closed before break, so really there should be a ending curly brace right there, okay? To close off that if statement before we get to the end of that case, alright? And default is also not really properly indented, so let's move that back to where it belongs and move on. Alright, so we're at default, opening a for each, opening an if, closing the for each, that's fine. Open a for each, open an if, close the for each, all good. And we've got break, alright. And then we've got a closing curly brace here. Now you'll remember the last curly brace that we were looking at was the switch. So that right there is the end of our switch, okay? No more switch. And right here is the end of, you see just above switch, the draw method, alright? Now, there's another curly brace here. So, you know, if that were the curly brace that belonged there in the second position, if we travel up until we hit a curly brace in the second position, we go up quite a crazy way, all the way to public class game 1, signifying the end of this entire chunk of code before we've even written any of our extra methods or anything. So that does not go there for sure, because we don't want to close that door for ourselves yet. So let's go ahead and get rid of that, so we can continue on with our methods, right? Which are kind of, basically you can just understand that methods generally start in this third curly brace position, alright? So, alright, we've got get user input, open curly brace, close curly brace, new method, change game state, open curly brace, an if statement, open curly brace, close curly brace, so the if statement is over, new if statement, open, close, new if statement, open, close, if, open, close, open and closed, open and close, and now we've closed the method in this third position right here, okay? Move your user sprites, we've opened it up, for each, open, if, open, close the if, close the for each, open a new for each and a new if, and another if, close the second if, close the first if, close the for each, close the method right here, and move sprites, okay? So, move user controlled sprites, open the method, open an if statement, close it, open an if, close it, open an if, close it, open an if, close it, and right here we're closing the method, okay? Opening another method, test for collisions, opening a for each, opening an if, opening another if, closing the second if, opening a new second if, closing it, open, close, closing that first if, closing the for each, opening a new for each, new if, new for each, new if, closing that third if, closing the second if, closing the second for each, closing that first if, closing that first for each, and closing the method. Alright, so that all looks wonderful, very good. We're opening fire projectile test, open if, close the if, open an if, close an if, open an if, close the method right there. Opening fire projectile method. Opening a for each, opening an if, closing the if, closing the for each, closing the method. Opening place burgers method. Opening and closing a for each here. Closing place burgers. Opening a win test. Opening an if, for each, if, closing the second if, closing the for each, opening a new second if, opening a third if, closing the third if, opening an else, opening an if, closing that if, opening another else, closing that else, closing the previous else right there, closing that if above, and let's see, closing, I believe, the for each, and closing the method. Right? That all looks fine. Set game state values. Just open it up. Open a switch. Close the switch. And close the method. This should be in the third position so we can keep track of what's going on, right? Okay, open get high scores. And this is where it starts to get a little strange as far as the way you're organized is going. Okay, so we've got get high scores. We're opening the method. That looks fine, right? And then we're going to use a try. Let's just back this up a bit so we can see a little better where this is in relation to everything. So there's that opening curly brace, and this next line, of course, should be indented, right? Then let's go ahead and let's pull these all onto the same line so that we can really see what we're doing, all right? One kind of clean, smooth line. All right. And then we'll go ahead and grab these guys. Well, let's just, there we go. Indent those. So now we have a 4 right here, okay? Put that curly brace there. Indent these next guys. Now we have an if on the next line, right? Let's pull that forward. So this way we can clearly see when exactly we are opening and closing things. So, you know, we just open and close that if. Next thing we're looking for is the 4. So we've now closed the 4. We still have open, try, and the method. Alright, so it looks like we just closed try right here, right? And now we have catch. And we are opening catch. We are closing catch before anything has happened. So that's a bit strange, right? So, you know, that's probably incorrect. We don't want to close the catch right when we open it, right? So we want some of this stuff to actually be inside the catch. So we got rid of that curly brace, okay? And now we've got catch. We've got our bool working, and now we have closed the catch, alright? So let's go on with this if statement right there. And after that we've got a 4. If, and let's just try and keep this clean and keep it all on one line as much as we can. Here's our opening curly brace, just indenting things forward so we can see where everything's winding up. And we've got another if inside of this. Okay, closing that last if, closing the if before it. And now we've got else. And we're still inside of the for statement there, okay? So we opened up that else. And before we've even closed the else, or the for, or the if, we've already got a try nested inside of an else, nested inside of a for, nested inside of an if. That's probably not what was intended. I believe what we were doing was going ahead and going with a try, a catch, and then based on the results of that try and catch, if we're moving on to the next step, we're going to try and catch something else. Okay, so all of this kind of is preliminary to the try and the catch. All right, so let's go ahead and start closing this off. So we've got this else statement that we probably want to close off before we start our new try and catch. And then we also have this for statement that we want to close off before we use our try and catch. All right. And we're just going to put that right there. It's still a condition of this if statement up here, but it's no longer nested inside of this for and this else, okay? Regardless of what happens in the for loop here, the try will go ahead and execute as long as the if statement is true, okay? And then again, let's just kind of put this all on one line so we can organize a little bit better. All right. We've got a new for, opening it up, closing it, we're now closing the try, and we're ready for the catch. Okay, and we've also closed the catch now at this point. Opened and closed it. Then we've got this little statement here. Alright, and then we've got a curly brace. So that is going to be closing our if statement from above that our try and catch are nested in. Okay. And we've got another curly brace here. And if we take a look upwards, that's in the third position, meaning it's going to be our close of our method there. All right. Then we also have another one here. And if we go all the way up to where we were declaring our variables, that's going to be that second position. Now we know we've kind of reached the end of the code here, but we know that our first opening curly brace was in this very first position here. So, you know, at the end of the game, there should be a closing curly brace right there, okay? And that's going to signify the end of the game when you get to that closing curly brace in that very first position. So let's go ahead and try it now and see, you know, what we come up with. All right, so we've got some errors. So Alright, here's one. Invalid expression term int. Let's take a look at that. You'll notice there's a lot less errors going on now that we've kind of addressed the organization and the curly braces and how those are working out. So for int I equals 0, int is less than max high scores I++. So basically we're saying we're going to be talking about this integer called I for this for loop, alright? So instead of saying int less than max high scores, our integer's name is I, so we're going to say I is less than max high scores, and it does have to be lowercase. Boop. Alright, just like that, okay? So let's take a look at this next one. Boop. Alright, so it's saying does not contain a definition for file access and no extension method. So let's take a look and see what exactly is happening here. So we've got in this line the file write equals new file stream, burger highscores.txt, and then we've got file mode dot open or create dot file access dot read. So generally, you know, you're not going to have that many dots in a row, so you can kind of guess that rather than having a dot there, it's going to be a comma. Okay, so there are actually kind of three little parts to this file stream, okay? So there's the burger high scores, and then the file mode open or create, and then the file access read, alright? So when we put a period instead of a comma there, it was trying to combine these two different commands together and wasn't sure what to do with them, okay? So when we put a comma there, that gets rid of that. So let's see the next one we've got. Let's double click it. The name bool height scores run does not exist in the current context. So I think that one's pretty obvious. Bool height scores run, it should be bool high scores run, right? And right now, so we're not seeing any errors, so let's try it again. Alright, it's coming up. And it's going along just fine. So, one thing I've noticed about this game while I was playing through your version of the game here is that, and don't worry about the weirdness with the burgers on my screen right now. It's actually just lag from an old computer. But the one thing that you'll want to address is this win screen. You know, you've got your scoring logic all on there and your win screen, but your current score is printing out multiple times, and it is also covering up your win screen text. So you'll want to address both of those issues. All right. And that's all I've got for you today. Let me know if you have any questions about this. And happy coding!